And I think that brings me to my next question because you have the industry, you have the educational system, but then you have government as well that can facilitate and create policies that ensure collaboration between these two institutions. So, in your opinion, what's the role of government, the private sector, and philanthropists in supporting the educational system?
Okay, so you mentioned something, Temi, about the role of governments, and we years ago there was this theory called the triple helix model of education, where for education to successfully attain its purpose in society, there had to be this partnership between the educational institutions, the government, and the private sector. And in that model, it is not an unequal relationship. Each person or each entity in that triad had a balanced role to play. And so for governments, it had to be they had to set the regulation. They had to define the role of education in their society. For their part, educational institutions had to understand that they were going to be a vehicle for the agenda of the government. And education is not apolitical. I must just interject that here. Many people tend to think that education is apolitical and education does not have a political value. I'm here to dissuade you of that. Education is political. And so governments, in their part of setting up the regulatory framework, in determining, okay, we want education to drive society in this direction, they can then inform institutions, and institutions can create curriculum that allows that. Now, for their part, the private sector has a huge role to play in facilitating all of this because that's where the funding is. A lot of times government do not have the funding for educational institutions. And so this is where the private sector is able to come in to bridge that gap. And so through that triple helix kind of a triad relationship, we're able to get education to advance in the way that it should and to perform the way it should in our societies.